What's going on, guys? Coach Colin, high performance coach. And if you're looking for the best insights on the podcast you love, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. I'm going back. I know people like to hear about the latest Joe Rogan episode, but this one, 1730 with Cameron Hanes, is such a good episode. In this clip I'm about to show you, Cameron Hanes brings up such a good question, such a good thought process towards your life and what it's worth. I guess I'll just go about reading it again. I'm kind of going with this format, but at 55 minutes, Cameron Hanes drops an amazing insight about life and what it's worth. If it's worth so much to you, then why do you just go through the motions? And why don't you get after it and do everything you can in the days you have? Let's go. Let's do this.
Wolves. We need wolves in the streets, taking these dummies out.
Yeah, you just talked about how people, they don't like the uncertainty. They, they like, even if it's, I thought something weird for a second though, but even like, they say women who have been abused, they stay in that relationship because maybe that's because it's a known evil, I guess. You know what I mean? So then I was thinking, I saw this clip the other day, and it was this guy he asked people if they would take $10 million. If people, what could you do with $10 million? And people say they could live, a good life for a year, 10 years, or however long. And he goes, okay, well, what if I gave you $10 million, but then you wouldn't wake up tomorrow? And they said, well, no, I wouldn't do that. He said, so that means your life for a day is worth more than $10 million. Otherwise, you would take it and, you wouldn't wake up tomorrow. So if your life is worth more than $10 million for a day of living, why do you just wake up and just go through the motions? Why aren't you waking up and putting that value on it and saying you need to make the most of it and appreciating every day you have if it's that valuable to you, if you put it in those terms.
Yeah.
And it's, it's weird how people, when you put it like that, it's an easy decision to make. But when you just say, well, I'm just going to wake up and go through the motions, it's like, are you really maximizing the value of your life, the gift of life?
Yeah, it's interesting how people like develop these patterns. And one of the things that they do is like, unless something radical happens to you where you feel like it's all going to be taken away, you just can take it for granted. Like those near-death experiences are so profound for people because so many people have something happen like a cancer scare or maybe a car accident or some kind of a near-death experience where they walk out of it and then they realize like they could have lost everything.
Yeah.
And then they
got another
changed.
chance.
But you always had that. You always had this life that has endless possibilities.
Why does it take a wake-up call?
Right. I think.
Why does it take a wake-up call? And like that whole thing of like, well, if your life is worth more than $10 million, it's like, why aren't you treating it that way? Why aren't you going about every day of life like it's this $50 million experience that you get to have, where you get to do anything you want within reason? I know, like when you got to work and you got responsibilities, it's hard. But for the most part, you have so much say. You have the ultimate say in what happens in your life. So it's like, why aren't we? Because I'm guilty of it too. Like, my life is worth more than $10 million for a day of it. And it's like, how much is that throughout a whole year? Like, what's 10 million times 365? A lot. I'm not good at math. That's why I do YouTube. I'm not good at math. But it's a lot of money. And if that's what your life is worth for a year, then it's like, why aren't we going about, like, why aren't we making ourselves in the fittest possible physical condition? Why aren't we working on our minds constantly, trying to expand it and trying to, callous it, like David Goggins says? Like, why aren't we going about life like it's worth so much? My wife's calling me. Can't answer, honey. Sorry. It's so odd. It's such a good way to think of it. It's like, if you wake up tomorrow, because because not really promised. If you wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden, hold on. Honey, are you okay? I'm recording.
Oh, yeah, I am. Sorry.
Okay,
I
bye.
just wanted to make sure you knew about your call at 11.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Had to make sure. It was ringing and I'm just like, is she okay? Like, if she wasn't okay and I was just doing this, like, you know? I was just saying life isn't promised, so I was like, I had to answer. But yeah, like, why aren't we waking up and just going at life like it's worth $10 million? $10 million. It's like, think about what you did like yesterday or the day before, or those days where you do absolutely nothing and you know you should be doing X, Y, Z. You know? I don't know, man. It's just something to really think about. And then when Joe Rogan brings up the whole near-death experiences thing, and that's what it takes to wake you up. But like, it's so crazy that it takes almost dying for some of us to go out and live. All of us, really. I mean, not all of us go through near-death experiences, but like, why does it take so much for us to snap out of it? Like, I have my own thing where that happened to me. I mean, I don't have like these, like, I got my whole arm is just like all mushrooms and stuff. So I've had a lot of experience with psychedelic substances. And I remember one time I was allegedly on a mushroom trip and I thought I was going to die. Like, I really did. Like, I thought I was poisoned. Like, I thought it was all going to end. And I remember being like, if I get out of this, because at the time in my head, I was like, I might be trapped here forever. Like, I might be poisoned. I might have to go to the hospital. And I was like, if I get out of here, I'm going to live better. And I know it sounds so silly. I mean, this is a wild story. I was like naked in my washroom. Like, it was bad. It was, it was bad, but it was beautiful and it was good at the same time. There's no bad trips. There's only difficult ones, And then all of a sudden it like went away, as it does. And like, as I was like at the tail end of it, like I called up my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And I was like, I love you so much. I love you so much. I was like, you're the best thing to ever happen to me. You're like my savior. You're the best. And then I called my buddy Mike and I'm like, Mike, man, I love you. I love you so much, man. I love you. And he's like, are you on mushrooms? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right. He's like, I'm in the grocery store. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Oh man. I'm like, I just wanted to call and say that. And it's like, that's what it took for me to call those two people. I say I love you to my wife and everything, but like, that's what it took for me to like have the epiphany that like, I need to contact some people who are important to me. It took me thinking I was, gonna die in a trip. And it's like, why does it take all of that? If the one thing I could say is that we move away from needing those type of wake up calls and we just wake up. Because if you wake up, if you're in bed and you open your eyes, it's like instant gift, instant source of gratitude right there. And just live like as if you weren't promised that you were going to wake up, because you weren't. We always think that we're going to wake up. We always think we're going to be 50 and 60 and grandkids. None of that is promised. You always think you're going to have another 20 years with your friends. None of that is promised. You always think that you're going to have time to talk to your mom or your dad and mend relationships. None of that is promised. So I would just say, act like it. Act like your days aren't promised. And I think, again, I'm the same way. I got to do that, And I felt it. I've had people pass away. I've had really close friends pass away, and it's like, oh man, I thought they were going to get to meet my kids, and I thought we were going to get to talk, and I thought, I never even got to ask my dad why he wasn't around when I was younger. I just figured I had time. Like, I just figured, I'll do it another day. I've been meaning to interview my mom and get her on video, like a family album, but like a video one. And I just keep putting it off because I'm like, I'll do it next week, next month. I'll do it soon. It's really not promised. But yeah, that clip really spoke to me. You know, your life, would you take $10 million right now? I'll even give you 5 a.m. 5 a.m. you wake up, you get $10 million, but 5 a.m. the next day, you're dead. Are you going to take it? Probably not. Maybe there's some people in a little bit of a dark place. To those people, I would say, hey, no. For the most part, we're going to stay because life is so important and precious. The only thing that's missing is that we treat it that way. That's it. All right, I'm out. Peace.